Hey there, this is Ben from Benzo Chess with another video. And this is going to be on King Pawn Endgames today. So I have 9 problems, okay? And then there's a bonus problem, probably, maybe. Okay, so here is the first problem. This could be white to move, or it could even be black to move. It doesn't really matter. Here I'm trying to explain that with this pawn being on this file here, or it could even be on this file. Those two files are considered rook files because your rooks start there at the beginning of games, and anytime you have a pawn on those files, it ends up being a draw. We just need this king to go dance back and forth, and there's no way for white to win as long as he's in front of the pawn. Okay, and if he's not in front of the pawn, if he's somewhere else on the board, white should be able to win this. So okay, so this is how this works. We can say it's white to move it. Well, black can move too first, and all he has to do is dance back and forth. But white moves here, king g6, king h8. Let's go h6, king g8, check. And let's say if king was already on h8 and we did h7, then it would be a stalemate. But with this check, king goes to h8, king go to g6, or not g6, h6, and now it's a stalemate. Okay? Problem number 2. This is the opposition, okay? If white were to move first, white wins. If black moves first, it's a draw, okay? So, we're going to see how this works. Okay. Now, once king goes to e6, in front of his pawn, that's the main goal. You want to get in front of your pawn and win opposition. Okay? And this is opposition when your king is in front of this king, lined up exactly like this, okay? And now the king has to either go this way or this way, okay? And whatever way he goes, you go the exact opposite on a diagonal, covering that square he once was on. So if he goes to d8, we go to king f7, covering that square. King moves up, check. King goes up again, check. King goes right there, queen. Now what if he goes the opposite way, right? f8, same thing. We go to king e7, covering that square again. We go the opposite. Check, check, queen. Okay? Okay. So that's how that works. So, now here, what if it was black to move? Okay? So here, the goal for black is to make sure that the white king is not in front of his pawn. Okay? So black this time makes the move and he wins opposition. And now white, since he has an extra pawn, is not in front of his pawn. He's only on the side. So now he pushes his pawn. All black has to do is stand right in front of the pawn, and then he just has to dance back and forth until the right time to get into opposition. So he jumps here, king goes there. Let's say e7 again. King goes there, e8, and then f5, king e7, e5. It's going to be a draw because we're just dancing back and forth. Now if we go back a little bit, dance, dance, and king should go to e7 here, but if he decides to go d8, which is incorrect, now white wins opposition, forcing black to move. Black plays here, pawn pushes, king goes there, king goes here, and queens. You don't want to lose opposition as black. Okay? So king e7. Now let's say king f6. Now black can win opposition again here. And when the pawn pushes, stalemate. Black does not want to lose opposition ever. So that's main goal. Okay. So we're going to get to the next position here. Okay. Here, anyone to move first wins. Okay. I'm going to give you a second. You can pause your video if you want to try solving on your own, try to figure out. Okay, I'm going to give you the answer now. So, white to move, white will just come down king e5. As you know that the pawns are, this pawn's going that way, and this pawn's going that way. Okay, so that's why king comes down. Now, wherever black goes, white goes. Black goes this way, white takes back. Black goes this way, white just copies. But now, after you took the pawn away, you can push your pawn. It doesn't look like black's going to catch up on time. Okay? Problem number 5. This is white to move. Okay? The pawn that's the furthest, if they don't match up, they're kind of like a seesaw type thing here. You can tell the outside pass pawn, the furthest one's going to queen. Okay? So white to move here, the answer would be g6. Black takes back, white can take back, and now the black king's too far away, he's not going to catch up. Okay? Okay, problem number 6. Here's a position where the black side are trying to come over here, right? And same thing for white. White's trying to get over here. But this position, played correctly, is a dead draw. Okay? So we'll see how it should be played. Let's say white plays first, right? Doesn't matter who plays first, but white will play first here, okay? Check. c6. King will move up. And now king f2. g3 check. King f3. And now the kings will dance back and forth. And you wonder why. Well, let's go back to the very beginning, okay? Let's say pawn check, king moves there, and now let's say white thinks they're going to promote a pawn. Incorrect. King will take. Now black has 2 pawns where white has 1. And the white king has to be defensive and make sure those black pawns don't promote. So he has to stay where he's at, where the black king gets to gobble up the last pawn, march right up, and make it queen. And now it's going to be an easy one for black. Go all the way back. Okay? Check. King f2. g3. Actually, wait. What about if black didn't check? What if he took the g or b5 pawn? King takes b5. Well, both the king and pawn run at the same speed, and the pawn has a head start. So I think the pawn wins here. Remember, if white got the move here first, he's going to win the race. Okay, so that's why black does not take, and he goes with check. White goes here. And what if the white king takes? Well, the black pawn has a head start, and queens. And that's a draw. So in a drawn position, if you're too greedy, you're going to lose. That's all I can say. Okay, we got 3 more positions. Okay. Here, pawns are split up by 1 square. So this should be pretty simple. You're kind of creating a wall. And one of your pawns are getting a head start. Okay, so black to move here. He plays king to f5. And we have a pawn push. And if you figure this out, this king cannot take this pawn. Because as soon as he does that, this pawn has a head start. Bam. Touchdown, right? So the king has to go back. And, well, white king will usually run up the board and help support, but this one stays back. Okay. Because he doesn't really need help. Now the black king goes there. Pawn push. The black king attacks the other one, but now this pawn goes up. And the black king cannot go here because of this attack. And this. So there's like a double wall here, right? So the black king has to go back up. The white king still stays in the corner for some odd reason. Black king goes there. Now we've pushed the other pawn. Now if he comes here, bam. The black king cannot catch the d7 pawn because it's going to turn into a queen. Plus, as you can see, there's still being a it's like a wall there. Okay, so he takes queen, game over. Okay, should just be 2 more and that's it. Okay, so here it is white to move. Looks like the black king can just take all of them, but that's not the case here. White to move. White's trying to promote on this rank or one of these squares, right? Okay. That's the first move, okay? Any other moves would end up being a loss for white. Black will take. Now, do you take back with your pawn? No. G6. Okay. And once H6 take back, now, do you push the pawn or do you take the pawn? Well, if you said take the pawn, it's not a good move. You don't believe me? Let's see what happens when you take the pawn. King comes up here. You think you're going to score a touchdown or make the goal. The king catches you just on time. That's the problem. Okay, so after pawn takes, push. King can't catch you now. Look at that. White wins the game. Okay, last position here. Okay, so let's see how we win this. Take a guess. Pause your video if you need to. But let's see what the answer is. We're gonna first go with the incorrect answers, okay? Someone might want to try f6. Well, this would be incorrect. Let's just say black decides to push g6. White takes, black takes. Now white king's gonna run over. But does not look like white's gonna be able to stop anything. Now black has 2 extra pawns. Check. King moves over so he can bring his other pawn into the game. Check. Willing to sacrifice a pawn. If white king takes f5, this one here, this one runs down. So he moves back. Doesn't look like white has much of a chance here. Okay. Okay, so what if it has to be h6, right? Some of you are thinking, well, it has to be h6 because it's the furthest away. Incorrect. It's just like f6. Pushes, takes, takes. And we're gonna have the same thing happen like when we push the other one. So here, what you want to do is, you see the 3 pawns are lined up exactly. There's not a 4th pawn here hanging off to this side. Okay, they're exactly lined up to one another, right? It's kind of like a regular chess game. We both have 8 pawns, and when you start your chess game in the opening, what's the thing you control? The center. So the correct move here to win this little mini chess corner here is to play for the center, since they're all lined up equally. So G6, this wins the game. Now, let's say black takes the F way, right? With F pawn. Now you're going to see, oh, which way is which. Now this pawn can just go straight up, but there's a problem. There's another pawn here, right? So we're going to attack that pawn. Now we have 2 different ways of winning. If G takes, then we push, right? But what about G takes the other way? Then we take this way. Okay? So this is what happens when F takes G. And if you think about it, with this move here, if H would have took G instead, it would be the same thing but the exact opposite. Okay? So, well, that'll be it for today's lesson. I hope you guys learned a lot. Thank you for watching, and get ready for the next video. See you soon.